And our final question will go to actually Ramon first. Ramon, diversifying the economy is very important. Here in West Maui, we have the West Maui Hospital project that has been a very key and important project to this community for a long time. Part of making this project for going forward is incentivizing an act that we had looked at within this community. That act was the Medical Enterprise Zone. Explain to us what you feel is the goods and bads about the Medical Enterprise Zone.
I think the good part of the Medical Enterprise Zone is that it will allow us to build a hospital in the West Maui, a hospital that has been blocked over and over again by Oahu. Now, we had a hospital ready to go for West Maui, but yet an organization called SHPTA on Oahu blocked it. They said we couldn't have a hospital because it's going to conflict with the hospital in Kahului. So what do we have to do? They give us an approval on building a medical enterprise zone. What does that mean? It means that it's a plan to get around the actual problem. The actual problem is that we need doctors here. We're in a crisis situation with doctors. The reason why is because the cost of medical malpractice insurance is too high. We need to have tort reform so we can lower the costs that doctors have to pay. That way more doctors will come to Maui and thereby solving the problem. Now, we could have a hospital here without a medical enterprise zone if SHPTA was let us think for ourselves. This is a top-down situation, folks. We need to think about ways where we can do this from the bottom up. They have to give us the ability to do what we need to do. Thank you.
Well, with all due respect, we have to make a factual correction here. The West Maui Hospital was approved by SHPTA, okay? It was, but you're thinking of Malilani. That's a different hospital.
This version of
No, the West Maui Hospital has been approved by SHPTA. I agree with Duke on that the SHPTA process needs to be streamlined. And that's why I introduced legislation to flip the process the other way so that the certificate of need hearings, and in fact, I think it is a law, with the governor, are held here on Maui first. Maui decides what happens to the project. The medical enterprise zone, a bill that I introduced and got through the House, would give GET tax exemptions and other types of regulatory relief to the builders of the hospital, as well as attract other medical enterprises through the area to provide long-term care beds and in cooperation with the University of Hawaii to do college medicine, as well as with OHA, who was interested in doing Hawaiian healing and other types of medicine too. The idea that the developers come up with is for a medical campus. The medical enterprise zone would give the tax and regulatory relief for the private sector to build this and attract investment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, folks. I don't know if we're going to be able to resolve this in 60 seconds, but I have to say that, you know, my opponent here has pushed the idea of tort reform. He has pushed the idea of establishing what SHPTA does. Now, SHPTA has some good questions. Is it a real hospital? Do they have the capability to actually build it? You know, are there going to be real people managing it? Good questions. The fourth question is, will this compete with the other public hospital? That shouldn't be a question. We're never going to have a hospital that does what we need to do without competing with Kahului. Now, again, the only thing that I think is great about the medical enterprise zone is it'll get our hospital now, and then we can change it. Because the only reason why we have to do that is because the government is blocking us and making us dependent on relying on this enterprise zone when we could easily exist without it if they would just lay off of the rules and regulations. We can lower tort reform and we can bring more doctors into Hawaii. I will introduce legislation to do that. Don't get mad, get mad.
Well, the model for the West Maui Hospital is one that works in conjunction with Maui Memorial, and that's Critical Access Hospital. It's a Critical Access Hospital because you have a federal source hospital in Kahului. They're able to get higher reimbursements. That allows them to provide a successful business model to attract doctors and to keep the hospital, the West Maui Hospital, open with the long-term care beds. The SHPTA process, one of the things it does is make sure that an entity doesn't get built with such a cruddy pro forma and business plan that it ends up becoming insolvent, and then the state, the taxpayers, have to pick up the cost of the medical facility. So that's what I think, you know, the Lieutenant Governor was pointing at, is there is a validity to making sure that we don't have defunct medical facilities. However, the West Maui Hospital is a good plan, and that's why SHPTA, again, approved it. It's an approved hospital going forward. The only thing that's changed is the location, which is going to be up towards Kaanapali side now, in order to address the easement issues that they were having with DHHL. So, you know, there's great infrastructure up there. I'm behind this project. I will push again for this medical enterprise zone bill because I believe not only will this provide a critical service to the community in emergencies, but it will provide a basis for growth in the health sector economy, jobs for the nursing student programs at Lahaina and Luna to come back to, long-term care beds, and hopefully research and development clinics, which is another thing that the medical enterprise zone would have addressed as well too. Thank you very much.
Closing remarks, 1 minute for Ramon, and then 1 minute for Angus.
Are we just wrap up? Are we still talking? Okay.
Closing remarks.
So, in closing, folks, it's true that McKelvey and I agree on a lot of things. These are base things that need to be improved for West Maui. We both love West Maui. We just have a different style of operation. You see, I believe that we need to stop asking Oahu and begging Oahu to give us things and waiting for handouts. We need to demand the things that we were owed 30 years in the past. I'm not a politician. I'm a chef at Kobe Steakhouse, you guys. I decided to do this because I saw things that were out of control. The difference between the way that things are supposed to be in the State House and the way that things actually are as far as I could throw a rock from here. We need to we need to reform the system that we're using right now. We need to audit the Department of Education. We need tort reform. We need to relook at the way we've been doing things for the past 30 years because it doesn't work. If you're happy with the way that things are, continue voting for the same people. If you want to see real change now, we have to vote for new people. Tell your family and friends in West Maui, vote for me. Don't get mad, get Madden for State House. Thank you.
First of all, I just want to say it's been my pleasure and privilege to represent all of you for the last 4 years in the state legislature. And again, contrary, with all due respect, we don't get crumbs. There's only 6 Maui representatives out of 51.
I didn't say crumbs.
Okay, we don't get crumbs. We fight and we bring home the bacon. That's what we do. That's right. $100 million for the roads and harbors and schools. That doesn't come, you know, that's not a proportional distribution. And if it was the case, then you know what? The TAP would have gotten taken away and the Lahaina Luna boarding program would have been axed. And it wasn't. Because we, in the state legislature, work hard for you. We fight tooth and nail to make sure that your tax dollars come back to this community. And that's really, at the end of the day, what is the passion. But, you know, I'm so glad that Ramon is running again because his ideas and the positive tone of this race, I think, is a beacon for all the contests going on. And if the ideas themselves that are being generated live on, that is the winner of November 2nd, are the ideas. Because if we don't move these ideas into fruition, if we don't work together, then we'll all end up being losers November 2nd. I humbly ask you, please, for your support on November 2nd. And no matter what, get out and vote. And let's show everybody that Maui no Ka'oi and Lahaina no Ka'oi. And mahalo and aloha again.
Ladies and gentlemen, your candidates for State Representative District 10. Mahalo.